The late afternoon sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the cracked concrete of the rundown gas station. It sat on the edge of a lonely stretch of highway, the kind of place where people stopped out of necessity, not choice. A rusted Coke machine hummed beside the convenience store entrance, its light flickering behind a smudged plastic cover. The smell of gasoline hung thick in the air. Emily pulled up in her faded blue sedan, its engine rattling softly before sputtering into silence. She climbed out, brushing strands of dark hair from her face, and walked around to the pump. Her boots crunched softly on gravel as she inserted her card and started fueling up. She was halfway through a 12-hour drive, headed to visit her sister in a neighboring state. She hadn't planned on stopping here, but her fuel light had blinked on 15 miles back, and this was the first station she'd seen since. A pickup truck was parked 2 pumps over, dusty and lifted high on oversized tires. 3 men leaned against its sides, sipping beer from dented cans, even though the sign on the door clearly said no alcohol on premises. They were loud, laughing at something one of them had said, their voices carrying too far across the lot. Emily didn't pay them much attention at first. She was used to guys talking big, acting tough. But something about their energy was off. Too cocky, too sharp around the edges. One of them, tall and wiry with sunburned skin and a patchy beard, noticed her. He nudged the man next to him, grinning. "Hey, sweetheart," he called out, raising his voice above the sound of the pump. "Need a hand with that thing? Or maybe just someone to talk to?" Emily didn't look up. She kept her eyes on the fuel gauge, willing the numbers to move faster. "Ah, don't be like that," another one said, this one shorter, stockier, with a stained tank top and a crooked ball cap. "We're just bein' friendly. Don't gotta act all stuck up." She turned slightly, voice even but firm. "I'm good, thanks." The first guy, emboldened by her response, took a step toward her. "You sure? Lot of weirdos out here, you know. Be a shame if something happened to a pretty thing like you." Emily's stomach tightened. She tried to ignore the chill that crept into her chest. She didn't want to escalate anything, but her instincts were screaming now. She pulled the nozzle from her tank, forcing herself to stay calm. "I said I'm fine." That's when the third man, younger than the others but just as rough-looking, circled around the front of her car, slowly, as if daring her to react. He flicked his can aside, the beer still sloshing inside, and it hit the pavement with a clunk. "You got a name?" he asked. "Or do you just grunt like that all day?" Emily reached into her jacket pocket for her phone, but before she could pull it out, the short one stepped in and slapped it from her hand. It skittered across the pavement, landing near the base of the pump. She froze. Her breathing quickened, but she didn't move. "Relax," the tall one said with a grin. "We're just trying to have a little fun. Don't need to go callin' the cops or nothin'." Inside the convenience store, the clerk peeked out through the smudged glass door but didn't come out. 2 other customers near the air pump looked their way but quickly turned back to their business. Emily backed up a step, her keys clenched tightly in her fist now. "Back off," she said, louder this time. But the men didn't listen. The tall one stepped even closer, his grin fading, something mean flickering in his eyes. "You think you can talk to us like that?" he said. "Like you're better than us." The younger man laughed. "She thinks she's too good to be polite. Maybe she needs a little." That's when the noise started. At first, it was just a low hum in the distance, a faint thunder on the horizon. But it grew louder, sharper, until the very air seemed to vibrate with the sound. The unmistakable roar of motorcycle engines echoed off the pavement and metal awnings. Emily looked up. From the highway entrance, a flood of motorcycles began pouring into the gas station lot. 2, then 5, then a dozen, and more behind them. Gleaming chrome, black leather, roaring engines. Some bikes had flags fluttering behind them. Others bore patches with names she couldn't read from where she stood. The men turned, confused. "What the hell?" the tall one muttered. The bikers didn't stop. They moved with precision, spreading out, parking in a wide arc that quickly surrounded the gas station. One by one, they killed their engines, the silence that followed somehow more intimidating than the noise had been. One of the bikers dismounted near Emily's car. He was older, tall and solid, with a gray beard and mirrored sunglasses. His leather vest read Iron Legacy MC across the back, with a skull emblem beneath it. He looked at the 3 men, then at Emily. "You all right, ma'am?" he asked, his voice low and steady. She nodded slowly, not trusting her voice yet. The tall man laughed nervously. "We were just talkin'. Nothing serious. The biker's face didn't change. Didn't look like talkin', he said. More bikers stepped forward now, forming a quiet, immovable line behind the first. A few moved between Emily and the men, shielding her completely. Their presence was overwhelming, not loud, not angry, just final. The three men shifted uneasily, suddenly aware of how outnumbered they were. Emily stood frozen behind the line of bikers, her phone still lying on the ground, forgotten for the moment. The fear that had gripped her only minutes ago was slowly giving way to something else. Rick's cocky grin faded the moment the engines died. A heavy silence replaced the roar, the kind of silence that didn't feel peaceful, it felt like the moment before a storm hit. He shifted on his feet, hands still slightly raised as he glanced around at the sea of leather, denim, and hard stairs that now surrounded them. The temperature hadn't changed, but sweat suddenly trickled down the back of his neck. Duke muttered under his breath, "What the hell is this?" The bikers didn't speak. They didn't need to. Their presence said everything. Big men and women, some scarred, some tattooed from neck to wrist, stood shoulder to shoulder like a wall of iron. Most wore black vests with the Iron Legacy MC patch on the back, two crossed wrenches beneath a grinning skull. Some had smaller patches: Enforcer, Road Captain, Sergeant at Arms. None looked like they had much patience for excuses. The gray-bearded leader, still standing in front, turned his head slightly toward Emily without taking his eyes off the three men. "You sure you're okay, ma'am?" Emily nodded slowly, swallowing hard. "They tried to corner me. One of them knocked my phone away." He gave a single nod. "That true?" he asked, directing the question at Rick. Rick scoffed, trying to keep his voice calm. "Look, man, it was a misunderstanding. We weren't gonna hurt her or nothing." The lead biker didn't move. His face remained unreadable. "You touched her phone." Duke stepped forward, hands up. "It wasn't like that, we was just messing around." One of the female bikers, tall and lean with long braids, stepped up beside the leader. Her vest bore the word Vice President. Her eyes locked onto Duke, narrowing. "You think knocking a woman's phone out of her hand is messing around?" Duke faltered. "We didn't think." "That's right," she snapped. "You didn't." Rick looked around, clearly trying to calculate whether he could run, but everywhere he looked, there were boots, beards, arms like tree trunks, and cold eyes watching his every move. Tommy, the youngest of the three, took a single step back toward their truck. Two bikers, twins by the look of them, moved in unison to block his path. One crossed his arms, the other just shook his head slowly, as if daring Tommy to try. The air felt heavier with every passing second. Rick licked his lips. "Look, this is just getting blown out of proportion. We didn't know she had people with her." "You think that's the point?" the gray-bearded man said, finally taking a step closer. His boots thudded softly on the concrete. "You think the only reason you shouldn't harass a woman is if someone's watching?" Rick's mouth opened, but no sound came out. The biker kept walking until he stood face to face with him. He wasn't yelling. He didn't need to. Every word came out like a hammer dropped on steel. "You didn't know she had people. Now you do." He turned slightly, glancing back at Emily. "You want us to call the cops?" Emily hesitated. She looked at Rick, now pale and visibly shaken, then at the other two who had lost all their swagger. "No," she said, "I just want them gone." The biker turned back, nodding once. "Then that's what we'll do." He looked at Rick. "Get in your truck, leave. If I ever hear you laid hands on another woman, or tried this crap again, we'll finish this conversation another way." Rick nodded quickly. "Yeah, got it, we're gone." He turned and all but jogged toward the pickup. Duke and Tommy followed, not looking back. One of them tripped over a curb. The other spilled his beer. They scrambled into the cab like rats fleeing a ship. The engine coughed to life, and the truck backed out awkwardly, tires squealing as it sped out of the lot and back down the highway, disappearing into the horizon. The silence lingered for a moment after they left. The bikers didn't cheer. No one clapped or laughed. They just stood there, calm and solid, watching until the dust settled. Then the gray-bearded man turned to Emily. "You sure you're okay now?" She nodded. "Yes, I didn't know what I was going to do." "Thank you." He gave a slight smile. "We were passing through. One of the guys saw what was happening. We don't stand for that." Emily picked up her phone from the ground. The screen was cracked, but it still lit up. She looked at him again. "You didn't have to get involved, but I'm glad you did." The woman with braids stepped closer. "You don't owe us anything. Just take care of yourself." Emily smiled, the tension finally beginning to ease from her shoulders. "I will." The bikers began to disperse, climbing back onto their bikes. Some nodded to her. One handed her a bottle of water. Another gave her a short two-finger salute as he passed. The engines came alive again, one by one, shaking the ground beneath her boots. Emily watched them ride off, sunlight flashing on chrome, their formation tight and powerful. Within moments, they were back on the highway, fading into the distance like ghosts, the sound of their engines lingering in the air like thunder after a storm. She stood there for a long moment, the wind tugging gently at her hair. The fear was gone now, replaced by something else. Strength. The kind that shows up when you least expect it, wearing leather vests, riding heavy bikes, and standing between wrong and right without saying a word more than necessary. She looked down the road where the bikers had gone, a soft smile forming at the corner of her lips. Not all heroes wear badges. Some wear patches.